Hello, everybody. Here we are once again in another Lynn Talks Tech. And in this episode, we're going to talk more than just tech. We're actually going to go back in time to continue Lynn's story of escaping from Vietnam after the Vietnam War. Some harrowing stories that show the grit and determination of people who have nothing to lose and everything to gain from reaching safety and trying to survive. So, Lynn, tell us about we're finally able to get on a boat on the open ocean. And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so the adventure continues. We finally escaped after about 10 tries and got out to the open seas. We finally cleared the Vietnamese water and escaped the patrol boat. So now we're in the open seas. Why this story is significant is that there are times in your life where you have no idea where you're going. And this is one of those times. You know you left something behind. You want to go somewhere better. I remember back when I was a kid, thinking when you hear about, and when I was a kid, maybe like 10 years old, thinking about you hear about America, because, Americans were in Vietnam during the war. I always encounter conversations with adults. What is it like in America? Because at the time, Vietnam was fairly educated South Vietnamese were sending their children. If you were privileged and you were able to go to get education, they normally send children to like the US or Europe, like Paris, France, because, we have a French influence Vietnamese. You could go to, Germany, West Germany, Australia. So a higher education was a ticket always to get out of Vietnam in terms of being able to elevate you. So Vietnamese are very highly educated. This is South Vietnam I'm talking about at the time. So it was always an aspiration for parents. And my parents were no different. They wanted to give their children the best education. So I always talk about like going to US, going to United States, right? That was one of the things, because we had other people that went there for education, get a college degree, and you always hear like, oh, wow. So at the time, I remember me thinking I have no idea what US sounds like, but it sounds fabulous. It sounds like the dream, like you got all these nifty things and food. And so to me, it was so far away. It's like a dream that you don't have any tangible ways of getting there, right? But escaping Vietnam was the first realization that we may be on our journey to that dream. So when you set foot out to escape one, very bad condition, and you put your life at risk, finally you clear the first hurdle of getting out of the open waters. But then you have this unknown, this great unknown. And if you've never been in the ocean during the dark of night, in the middle of the Pacific, and you can't see anything. This total black darkness, especially when there's a storm or something brewing. You don't see stars, right? Anyway, so the first night I was in the boat getting out, so that didn't kind of count. But the first full night I was out in the ocean, I realized it's like we have no idea where we are. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're going to end up. We don't know how long it's going to take. All we know is that, we are free. So think about it. The feeling of freedom amidst the mixed feeling of having uncertainty, not knowing what you're going to eat, how you're going to drink, how you're going to survive. You could be there for 5 days. You could be there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You could be ending up on the coast of China. If you get drifted a long way and you drifted right back to Vietnam and you get thrown in jail. Or you can end up in some other places where, potentially you have a chance to survive and be free. So all these thoughts run through my mind, and all I could think about is like, oh, this dream of America. Like, man, it's like I have no idea. You got no idea what it is like, but you're just like, okay, that's cool. That's where I want to go, right? So the second night, that was the experience I felt like, oh man, it's just a big journey ahead. I had a lot of uncertainty, but I was just happy. You could feel like I'm happy to be free, right? Even though I'm throwing up in the boat like crazy. So once we were out there on the second day, I remember we must have been somewhere near. And again, my ship captain It's actually one of my cousins who were navigating, and he did it by the stars, just the star and compass, and just like going that way. But then we saw during the day, we saw another boat sneaking up on us, and we getting kind of worried. We left the Vietnamese water by now, but what's happening? And so I think my family got on the binoculars and looked, and sure enough, they were chasing us. Sure looked like a pirate boat, looked like a kind of a fisherman Thai pirate. So if you're familiar with the history back then, a lot of the people that were lost at sea from the refugee boats um, were either from the weather conditions or whether it was the actual Thai pirates. So there was a big danger there that a lot of these fishermen turned pirates were basically capturing people from boat, really just like women and children, especially young women. They would jump your boat, they would beat the man, they would basically grab the women, the girls onto their boat, and then they might burn
Oh
your
my
boat.
gosh.
So
It's terrible.
we were rehearsed. We knew this was happening because before we go, we got all told the stories, right? Horrific. So as soon as we think, okay, we're out of Vietnamese water, but we must be somewhere because there's definitely this is boat that was chasing us. It wasn't just like strolling along doing its fishing thing. So all the men told the women, we knew, kind of rehearse what we would do. And typically women, what they do is they start putting all kinds of like coal, stuff on their face to make them look like ugly and dirty, so that if we ever get attacked by these boats, that maybe they would just forget about these people, right? So people start doing this, and in a panic, I don't know what was going on, and then I realized I think my father was above deck, and everybody had to go back down into the hull of the boat, and then so what happened was, as these boats were chasing us and got closer, again, remember my father actually had weapons on board. So we took them out and started, basically arming ourselves, right? As they got closer. Because remember, our boat had 50 people or 52 people, something like that, on a tiny 13-meter boat. So maybe about 40 feet fishing boat. We're not equipped to really outrun anybody, right?
Right.
It's just a small diesel engine fishing. It's not really, you can't be like souping up your boat like you're escaping, like a power boat, anything. As a regular fishing boat. So we knew that, they're getting closer. On their boat may only have 4 or 5 guys, right? But anyway, we started arming ourselves and start pointing them. If they got closer, we would have to fire them, right? And soon enough, they got closer, and you know what? They saw weapons, and the same thing happened with patrol boats. They dropped. They stopped. You don't see what
That's
happened in
amazing.
the ocean. If you ever look in the ocean when it's calm, you can see the white of the ocean when the boat goes fast. We
Yeah,
saw
the
that,
wake, right? The
and it
wake of
stopped.
the, yeah.
Yeah, the waves, right? So the waves stopped breaking. We know they stopped, and soon enough, we said, okay, they want easy prey. They don't want to go into this battle, right? So that again saved us twice already. Remember, first day was Vietnamese boat. This one was pretty sure it's Thai pirate boat. Why would they chase us, right? So we were like, oh, breathe another sigh of relief, survival. And so we're like, okay, well, at least we're like maybe in Thai water now, right? Because at the time, Thailand was one of the destinations where mainly a lot of people who escape on foot in Vietnam, you could go through the jungle and you could go to Thailand. So some of the people who went that route, they didn't go by boat, they did end up in Thailand. But most people don't end up in Thailand because, again, you have lots of pirates. They probably, rape, kill, burn your boat before you get there. So for a long time, I can remember I hated anything to do with Thai. It took me a long time to even eat Thai food.
Wow.
It was just this experience you have that I'm not sure. I'm not generalizing that people were bad. I'm just saying that when humans take advantage of another because they saw the opportunity, they could get really bad. So I really feel for refugees and the whole social justice thing, because I was a refugee once, and you put in danger. So kind of generalize a little bit. Anyway, so that episode, we survived the second major thing there. And then I remember, all right, okay, we're happy. We continue on our way. So now we're like kind of second day. And then that evening, there was a storm. And if you ever been on a storm, may see in a tiny boat with 50 people cram into it. Again, we're not a big boat. We're not a metal boat. We're a wooden kind of fishing boat. I was so scared. I can tell you, the bleak, pitch dark skies. And then you got the wind, you got the waves, and the waves were like giant. It was top. I mean, you're talking about like a boat could be 30, 40 feet long. The waves themselves could be 20 feet high, and slamming your boat. So all of us were scared. We got all under the hull again, right? And I was just like, I don't know how long it's gonna last for. Water's everywhere, and people just throwing up, yelling, screaming, the smell of diesel engine. I was so scared. I tell you, if you ever have faith or lack of faith, this is where you.
Exactly.
I was born Catholic. My parents were Catholic in Vietnam, which were a minority, right? But I was baptized and basically all of that. So, but when you're a kid, you don't really lean on your faith a lot, right? You're like,
yeah.
But I can tell you, when we left Vietnam, the only thing I really had brought with me was a shirt on my back. I had a gold chain with a gold cross. That was the only thing I had with me. And so that was my faith. And I called on that night.
Wow.
I like, Lord.
That's amazing.
Mother Mary, save us. Because I remember I have a picture of Mother Mary. And she's like we refer to her as the perpetual help. And you pray to her.
Right.
And boy, I was praying hard. I'm like, I'll be a good boy. Just let me survive this one. I'm so scared, right?
That sounds so heartbreaking, but yet so inspirational too.
But that was the night I could remember very distinctly where my faith was tested. And if you know anything that's in the Bible, where Jesus told his disciples, just Simon Peter, come out to the boat, walk towards me, in the fishing boat. This is where your faith is tested, right? You're like, okay, I went this far, help me survive. And you know what? The seas calm. I don't know how long it was before then, maybe an hour or two or whatever it was, but it was a very scary moment as a kid. And I believe I wasn't the only one. I was sick as hell. So we survived that night. I think it was the second night. We survived the storm. Nobody was lost. Daylight break. We came on board with like breathe a sigh of relief. And I'm like, I'm a new man. I'm born again. So when I talk about the journey, it's not about like just, getting on a nice ticket cruise and getting to somewhere after a couple of days. There was that challenge where your faith is tested, your resolve is tested, your belief is tested, your strength is tested. And I remember I think it was after that night, got up to the deck, be able to breathe air, see the clear sky. And we're like so happy. Something basic in life is about human survival. When you get these stages of like fear and anxiety and then elation and then hope. So having hope there really helped. Exactly. Hope, faith, and love.
A roller coaster of emotions.
Roller coaster emotions, right? So here's the story that continues. So now we were like, okay, let's continue our way. We must be somewhere, Thailand. Maybe we head towards, Indonesia, Malaysia, somewhere there. We know those have refugee camps and things like that. So we continue on. And you know what? That was a happy time because we were like, we're able to eat and drink a little bit. And then we saw another boat in the distance. Again, with waves breaking. Another boat behind us. And we're like, oh my God, not another one, right? So the same thing happened. They kept coming after us. We all went down on the deck. And then the folks that had the guns brought it out. But this boat kept coming. But we noticed that it wasn't very fast. Unlike, the other boats. It wasn't very fast. It was not like, breaking with. It looked like it was gonna sink. Really, this boat was So what happened was it was trying to chase us, but it was a slower, and the head got so like heavy, it was dipping in the water, and you start seeing like I think my father and binocular said, "Hey, doesn't look like in fact, it looks like if we let them come closer, it looks like they are actually another refugee boat, another escape boat." Sure enough, it was another refugee boat. They had a lot more people on their boat. Their boat wasn't that much bigger than us, maybe the same size even. They're like 100 people on there, like twice the amount of people. But
Wow.
they looked like they were in serious trouble with their engine or something because, they were sputtering and they were much heavier. So they're like, so we decided to stop, and we stopped and let them come closer. And then we heard Vietnamese. So we're like,
Thank God.
well, they're just escaping like us, right? And they saw us and they were in trouble. It turns out that their engine was having, I think one of the motors or one of the stroke had problems or cylinders. So my boat, again, one of my other cousin was actually like a boat mechanic, because when you escape, you have to have kind of like, we planned it out for, I don't know, a good year. So we had, obviously the captain, we have somebody who could fix engine, somebody could get arms like my dad, whatever. So we had a bit of everything. And anyway, we stopped and we asked them what's wrong. Right? They came closer. They said the engine has trouble. They said, you know what, if we can help them, they would exchange, rice or whatever with us or whatever. We're like, oh no, we're going to help them anyway. Right? So my cousin jumped over there. He tied up the boat, and after a little while, he was able to get it going again, fixed. They weren't all like, I guess some cylinders were having trouble, misfiring or whatever. So he was able to fix it up. And they said, okay, we'll give you this and that. And then we're like, no, we're fine. You look like you have a lot more people to deal with. Again, after they're able to be on their own, we said, okay, we'll go our separate way again, because the problem is back at sea, you can't really travel together. You don't know. If you end up in the wrong place, both of you are screwed. And we say, so we just went on our way, right? And so they went on their way. We went on our way. Our boat was faster because, they had more people and things like that. So that was an interesting, because it's not everybody who looks like an enemy is an enemy, and not everybody who chase you is an enemy. So I kind of learned like, oh,
Right.
even if you're in your own plight, you need to have some compassion. But early days where I realized like, other people that are in need along the way, you might not be a lot better off, but in the long run, people need help, you help them. So we helped them. We went on our way. And this is like the third day or something at sea, right? And we kept going. We don't see anything, no land, nothing, right? Pitch black, dark. Later that day, I think in the evening of that day, the third day, we saw the boat again. And
Wow.
understandably, we kind of probably the wind or whatever. But this time we recognized them, and they were in worse shape. I guess the engine, we just patched it to keep it going for a little while, but it was in bad shape. So they completely broke down. So we actually
Poor
stopped
people. Yeah.
and we said, you know what, there's no way we can fix this thing. We don't have, whatever extra parts or whatever. We try, and then we realize they're not going to be able to go on any further. Now we're at sea. We don't have any land anywhere in sight. So we don't know how long it's going to go for. Sometimes when you escape, you're preparing for a long trip. You prepare for weeks, like 3 weeks. Because the stories back then, there were boats that drifted off the wrong place, and they were at sea for 3 weeks, whatever, right? And people were starving, whatever. So we would prepare, but we don't know. We don't know how far. Sometimes people would end up in some place, but they were not accepted. They got pushed back out to sea. We had stories like that where boats
How
got
could
into
people be
land.
so cruel?
They got into land, and then, the government or the locals don't want them, and they just give them a bit of water and maybe some food and push them back out, right? So we heard those stories. Anyway, this boat needed help. They were not going anywhere. They were going to drift, and we don't know how long they're going to drift for. So my family decided that we're going to tow them. It was
That's
kind of
great.
the humane way to do it.
Exactly.
Compassion. So we threw a rope and we towed them. We couldn't tow them very close because you don't want the boats to them. And they have a lot more people. So when you tow them, you have to be careful because the head gets dipped down, right?
Right.
So we told them, gosh, I guess how many hours we told them. So we had to go now slower, right? But we had this boat at the back. So now you got two boats linked together by rope heading somewhere. So obviously my boat has the lead. So we headed somewhere. And my cousin, I guess he navigated by stars or something. He goes, maybe we're off the shore of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I just want to get to land, right? We
How
want to
old
get,
were you? How old were you at this time?
I was 10.
10. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, I just want to get to land and preferably a free land, not a communist land. Right. So we continue on. And you know what? From that, it must have been like 10, 12 hours through the night. And we were off in the pitch dark night. We still had them towed. And we got to a point where somebody was keeping watch on my boat, saw light in the distance. They saw light. So my cousin go, well, man, it's light. We're going to go towards the light, right? And of course. So if you're in a dark tunnel, you see the light, what are you going to do? Right? You're going to go towards the light. I don't know what that light is, but I'm going to go towards the light. So we continue towards the light. And sometime later, I was excited. I'm like, 3 or 4 days at sea, I'm scared. I don't know where I'm going to end up. Light, we're going to go towards the light. Anyway, a little bit later, I think my father, he looked at it and said, well, one light became many lights. And it was a whole strip of lights. I'm like, well, this has got to be a land. This has got to be a beach. It's not a boat floating with a light. Because sometimes Vietnamese people end up seeing another boat, like a fishing boat, which is what my brother happened, right? They saw a Japanese fishing boat, and they actually brought them much bigger boat, and they brought them to Singapore. In this case, it wasn't a boat. So we said, okay, well, it's land, and it's land. So we don't know what land it is. My cousin's like, it's general that direction. He's pretty sure it's not like China. And so we already passed Thailand. So it's like somewhere around this. So we got closer and closer. This must have been about maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. It's still dark. And we got close enough to see what looks like a beach type of thing. You can see lights, but we weren't sure. So we got close to shore, maybe a few hundred meters off. And then we stopped. And then we're like, well, we don't know what country this is. So we'll have to go and inspect. So my father, the only one that speaks foreign language, remember, he's the translator. Luckily, he knows how to swim. He's been fishing, right?
Right.
Not everybody knew how to swim. So anyway, the decision was that he was going to be the one getting off the boat and swim in. So he swam in to shore. He got on the shore, looked around. I don't know. We're on the boat. We don't know. We can't hear him. I'm like, no idea what's happening. Do we get ready to turn back if it's like something bad? Back then, the tradition is not the tradition, but like the standard practice, in order for you not to get pushed out again, is to figure out if it's a friendly land. You disembark and you burn the boat. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
If you burn the boat, they can't send you back because we're technically illegal.
Yeah.
That's the definition of illegal. So as soon as my father was on there, he looked around, but we like, I don't know. We like this pin up like anticipation of what it is. And he can't tell us from shore because we can't hear anything. He got on, he swam all the way back. And he said, it's probably Malaysia. It's like, it's definitely not Chinese. It's not, So he thinks it looks kind of modern a little bit, like street lights, and it's not some kind of dingy oil lamp and, and
right.
So he said it's definitely like civilized and it's beach, and he said it's just a regular beach. So we decide we think it's Malaysia after he came back, right? And so my entire boat, my family decide we're gonna go in. We're gonna go in. We're gonna get off. It's about 4 a.m. now. Still dark, and so we decide to come in. But the other boat behind us that we're towing,
yeah,
they didn't believe us. They were scared. They're like, no, how do we know it's safe? Right? We're like, okay, we told you all this way. We're going in. You do what you have to do. We're going to burn our boat. Your boat doesn't run anywhere. So you decide what you want to do, right? So we came in and everybody got on shore. I remember we just basically, the boat went straight into the sand, right, at the beach. We all got off. We got on the beach. And the other boat was still hanging out there. And then they were like just watching to see what's going to happen to us, right? Not sure,
Right.
not sure what they're going to do, but they were like trying to make sure we don't burn our boat. So they maybe grab our boat and go or something. I don't know what they're planning for. But it was one of those moments where I'm like both excited at the same time. It's like not really sure what's going to happen, but also scared. Like, what if, right? Anyway, we all got onto the beach, and then my father ran out to the road. There was actually a road by the beach, and he waved down some motorcyclists that went by a little later. He just waved them down, and of course they figure out what's happening. All these people on the beach and blah blah blah. At the time, it was not uncommon, right?
Right.
And so they contact the authorities, the Malaysian authorities. Soon enough, you got the police showing up. By then, the other boat decided, okay, now we go in. We're like, what are you gonna do? You wanna take our boat and then go? Like we were about to burn our boat. I don't think we ended up burning it, but like you have to be ready. But anyway, so these folks also came in, and so then we had maybe 150 people there on the shores of Malaysia. So when they brought there, I guess they call standard protocol is like the United Nations or whatever that had a refugee camp.
Right.
My first, do you remember those kind of like the little containers of paper-based drinks that you suck out of? A little, put the straw in.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what you call that, like a rectangle.
Little triangle, little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sip. My
Oh,
first experience.
like an energy drink, right, or something?
Yeah, just a regular drink. I guess it was a
Okay.
fruit juice or something like that. And it was just, they give us one of those, and and I'm trying to figure out, like, hey, this thing, I put the straw in, and you, as a kid, you wonder, like, wow, okay, so put it in, drink. Oh, this is great. First taste of, a new drink, a new experience. What they did was they actually bussed us after they kind of counted all the people. Remember, we didn't have anything, no possession, just shirts on our back, right? They bus us to like a processing center somewhere, like a dock somewhere. It didn't take long. By that time, they like came, and immediately they transfer us to, must have been a port somewhere, got onto this catamaran, and they immediately transfer us. I remember the catamaran's like, oh, this thing's fantastic. If we had this boat, man, we could have escaped Vietnam. It's like when you go fast, it goes up like this, right? And it had a lot. It's like a ferry almost, right? It's a ferry, large ferry. We don't know where they were going. They weren't doing anything but my father was, I guess speaking English. And then he found out later they were taking us to a refugee camp. So there was an island in Malaysia, this part of Malaysia called Pulau Bidong. I think it's like Pulau and Bidong, Bidong. And I remember my parents taught me, like, when we escaped, you have to memorize all the addresses. Because if you get out, you gotta like say who your relatives are anywhere out there. So I know my brother at the time actually was already in Australia. He went to Japan, and then my cousin in Australia had a sponsor, and those sponsor helped them sponsor my brother who left earlier, right? So he's in Australia. By default, I had this idea about going to the US, right? But we don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, so my parents and I were on this refugee camp. They took us about an hour, went to this island. And I can tell you, this is Survivor Island. It's not an island where you think I'm going on an island cruise, right? This is Survivor Island. This is the island that was abandoned by whatever. It's probably not habitable, but they carved out half the island for refugees. I don't know the exact number. Maybe historically you can look up how many thousands of people were there at the time. So we got taken there, and as soon as we get to the boat dock, you see other Vietnamese ships there, boats that are basically crashing to shore and must have been burned. They must have ended there directly somehow, and it just looked charred, like a structure, skeleton. They were
Oh
burned. There
gosh.
was like a whole bunch of them. So we knew, okay, this is where we're gonna end up. So they told us where the island is. Anyway, as soon as we got there, we know this is a refugee camp out on an island somewhere, isolated. And so either way, we're like, great, this is another checkbox milestone, right? We got out, we survived the ocean, we survived pirates, we survived all this. We even dragged in a crew, and we ended up in this island. So once we're on this island, my father immediately, because he spoke English, there were United Nations people there processing people. So he volunteered. He's like, I help. So he basically became translator for all the people, because you have to like give him your name, relatives, anyone you know maybe living in overseas like Germany or France or, you know, US or Australia, whatever it is. They need to get all those documents. So now everybody's processed as a refugee, name, rank, number. One of the most funny story was not funny, but there's a history that my mom doesn't know when she was born. Okay. In Vietnam at the time,
Wow.
when you have a lot of children, parents, we don't put a lot of emphasis on birthdays, like unlike American culture. Sometimes you take it for granted. Like you have kids here, you have birthday parties and you get together, have fun. They have birth certificate. Back in the old days in Vietnam, sometimes you're born in the village, which my mom was, and you like parents like, yeah, you were born that day, blah, blah, blah. But like there was like no hospital certificate.
Yes.
So she know what years he was born because of your brothers and sisters and stuff like that, right? Because you're like, in between this and this. But when we got to Malaysia and they were processing her paperwork, they were like, we need a date, because everybody's like name, birth date. That's the minimum, right? And I remember my father there, and then he told them what his is and what mine is, and then get to my mom and his name and everything. To this date, I remember my mom's birthday very well, because when they asked, she just like, I don't know. She looked at me. She picked my birthday and subtracted a month. So it's really easy for me to remember what her birthday is, right? Because literally she had to make up something. Because we don't carry, we don't have paper, we don't have like birth certificates, anything like that. I think years later, my parents tried to contact the hospital I was born and try to get some of that paper. But like my mom wouldn't have that kind of paper, right? So some of our birthdays, when you are a refugee at the time, I know are not accurate. Like some children don't have accurate, they just made it up. Like maybe that year, if they have a lot of children, they may make it even messed up more. Like you get one kid wrong, all the other kids will be wrong. Like, oh, you're the oldest. Okay, you're the next, so it's kind of an interesting experience there. But we were on that island after they processed us. They said, well, you go up to zone F. I remember. I'm like, what's zone F? It's just some side of the island where, there's a bit of land and they put up some steel base, temporary structure, and you get assigned something. So my uncle family had 4 people. My family had 3, plus my cousin, who my father said, I'll bring one of my cousin because his age is a little bit older. He's about to go to military. So on my father's side, his brother had a lot of children. So we decided to bring the youngest boy. So he was my cousin. So we had 4. My uncle had 4 people. They gave us 8 people in one little shack up in this corner of the island. We're like, I don't care. This is better than the boat. So so we stay in this refugee island. And people later on, was funny when I first saw it, triggered my memory. I'm like, these people trying to survive on an island, blah, blah, blah. Of course, they always pick some exotic island somewhere. The idea is like, you get there, you got no help, you got nothing, you got bare bones, some whatever, for TV, reality TV. But it triggers some memory in me. Like, yeah, we got on that island. It was a lot more like survivor island where once a week they bring supplies in. They give you canned food, like canned beef, canned something, and canned everything, canned beans, by about after first month, you get sick of it. You're so sick of it. We're not allowed to go fishing, even though a lot of our people were fishing people. We're not allowed. So they put guards, Malaysian guards were hired to guard the island, and we're basically in kind of a prison, right? We can't leave, we can't go out fishing, we can go swim on the beach and stuff like that. So there was nothing to do there. So life there was interesting. That was the only time I can remember for a lengthy period of time where you spend months in a place. You don't know where you're going to end up eventually. You don't know. Because remember, 4 days at sea, we don't know where we're going to end up, but it was 4 days. Now we like, could be 4 months. And I remember after 4 months on, I'm like, oh, when are we going to get this off this island, right? So we stuck there. Every day was the same. Good thing was we were free, technically, kind of, right? We got guards and things like that. Funny things that you can't go fishing. They will catch you. They will shave your head, blah, blah, blah. But every day there was a fish market. The enterprising Vietnamese
Wow.
people,
Of
my
course.
my cousins were like fishermen, right?
Yeah.
And you get sick of eating the same canned food day in, day out. So people started like bribing the guards to bring seeds, and they would grow vegetables on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would see fish market, and they're like, where the hell does fish come from? So what happened was my cousins, they built a little dinghy, hid it in the bushes. Late at night, they would sneak out, a two person in a basket like thing, went out, fish, bring back in, hide the thing, come back. And
Wow.
occasionally when you walk around during the day, you see some people with heads shaved off. It's because they got caught. So we learned survival. We caught some fish and we did some that, and then we were on there every day. My father taught me Vietnamese and English at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Okay, English. This is what you're gonna learn English. We were by default would have gone to the U.S. because of my father's military service,
Right.
but because I have my brother in Australia, the rules say you go reunite Australia. So Australia actually process us as family reunion. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I have Australian citizenship.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I'm actually, I spent many years in Australia. I grew through high school there, college there, worked there, and came to the US much later as kind of H-1B tech worker for the Y2K.
Right.
And, again, continuing my dream, right? Because to build and freedom and all that, I appreciate all that stuff. But in Malaysia, a funny story was like every day, what do you do? Well, they give you 1 hour of class a day. Okay. It's not all fun and
Right.
game. 1 hour class, you go to class, and you know what? You get taught English, and they would have somebody from
Amazing.
volunteers came from, whatever country. So US, I remember funny, we were in like a bungalow. I would call it a bungalow, right? Like children gather, they teach you 1 hour, and they put this picture, and first American word taught by, a foreigner, blah, blah, blah. And he puts up this picture and he goes, hamburger, hot dog. And if you think about it, we're on an island, we're refugee, we're kind of like starving. I mean, there was food, but like nothing you want to eat. And then, occasionally you get fish, whatever, sometimes vegetable. They're showing you food and they're teaching you hamburger. Repeat after me, hamburger. I'm like, what the hell is that? Okay, hot dog. And they say, hot dog. I'm like, hot dog. Then they eat dog. So I was hot dog. Years later, when I'm in Australia, my cousin took us the first trip we got there as new immigrants, and they got, oh, I'll take you out to a restaurant. They took us to McDonald's, and I had the Big Mac, and finally I put two and two together, hamburger, and I tasted my first Big Mac, and I'm like, oh, God. For months, I know what the hell this tastes like. This is great. I still love a Big Mac today, by the way. It's like,
Yeah, me too.
but like hamburger. You know how strange hamburgers. It's not even an English word, right? It's like hamburg, and then hot dog. How strange
German, I
it
think.
sounds,
Yeah.
right? But we were in that island every day. I went for that 1 hour, and then we went swimming in the ocean, just finding something to do with our time. And then there was no water, there's no flowing water, so you go draw. So we ended up like I climb up the mountain with one of my cousins every day to go find a spring. So sometimes it could be there for a couple of hours climbing the mountain,
Right.
go up, because the further up you go, it's cleaner. People washing their stuff. So, we learn through survival, go up. We had nothing else to do with our time anyway. And sometimes people were so sick of food that they give us a canned food for that we ended up having some special occasion like New Year or something. I remember because I was there in October 1981 or something. So we stayed through Christmas and New Year and everything. There was nothing to do, no way to celebrate. So you know what we did? We did a huge bonfire, and then we threw this food can into it to make it like a
Oh
fire.
my gosh.
But these are some of the sweetest memory I have about the time where there was just influx, right? Talk about flux, kind of a product called flux. But when you have a lot of things going on and but you're stuck in this thing, things are
Yeah.
changing in the world, things are moving, but you're stuck here. You have to make the best of what you got, the resource that you have assigned to you.
Yeah. You turn into a very
Survival.
resourceful person.
Yeah. And I remember there's no music, no TV, no electricity, nothing, right? Even at night, I can tell you the basic thing about even going to the restroom at night was a scary episode every night. I'm like, it's dark,
Yes.
pitch dark out there, right? And there's no restrooms really, right? Up in the mountain somewhere, they put something. So as a kid, I'm like scared going up there by myself at night. And some people die in the island, obviously. So they just buried there like a
Wow.
cemetery. And so I'm walking through these dark, phony places. And I think we had like one tiny flashlight, whatever that we got from the guards or whatever. And it was like scary episode. So I remember I didn't want to go to the restaurant at night. No, you but basic things like that, I learned to appreciate a lot in life. It's like the basic things that make me happy. It's not like the, fancy restaurants and hotels. So things like
And
that.
I think that's critical, especially for an entrepreneur who is building a business and the business is not bringing in anything. So you can survive on basically nothing because you've been there, you've done that, and you could build your business in a very resourceful way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know what my foundation is like humans, the bare emotion and then driver of your own needs is very foundational and very rudimentary. Your needs to survive, your needs to like do well, be strong and all that actually is much more important than your wants. We can want a lot of things, right? But whether those wants are actually need or not, right? Do you need that? You
Mm-hmm.
want that, but do you need it, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes when we translate that, when I run business, I'm like, yeah, I want that. I want a nice big office with like a nice, break room with, free this and that. But do you need it, right? If you are trying to build a bigger thing, remember 10 tries to get out, 4 days at sea with many different, life-threatening events, and then months on a refugee island with sometimes nothing to eat or sometimes stuff you don't really want to eat. Just little basic things like that means that you have to have a high goal. My goal is like, the dream of coming to America, freedom,
Yes.
the dream
Yes.
of freedom, and end up in Australia with the same. Australia and US are very similar, right? So kind of like that culture. So you have to think very long term. You have to plan that you want to get there. You build little goals and you do survival being very lean. So when I relate that to today, I've been in SAP business for over 30 years and having multiple companies. I learned to adapt. Times are hard. I went through the Y2K, went through 9/11, went through financial crisis. All of these things are not trivial, but you focus on being lean and being necessity. Is it necessary or not necessary?
Mhm.
And you make the best use of the resource that you have. And, every day I wake up, I appreciate my health, number one, right? My faith, because I'm like, I haven't forgotten my promise on that boat, right? To be a good person. At the end of the day, it drives a lot of my decision from hiring to having empathy and compassion with people inside my organization, my customer partners. I empathize. I put myself in their shoes. I make it a real point every day to do something nice. I don't care if you know what, today, I don't really care if you're rich and famous and have lots of money or whatever. I just care really at the end of the day if you're a nice person. And if you're a nice person, then I want to elevate and be, associated with.
Right.
And that's kind of how I run business and how I deal with my team and my customers or my partners or even my vendors. Because at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care how important you are, how big you are, how much money. Like the investors that come and talk to me, like, of course, like we run a $10 billion fund, blah blah blah. I'm like, but are you nice? Are you like somebody I would like to talk to and hang out at the end of the day? It's not. I don't want any of your money.
Exactly. That's so important.
But anyway, I was in this island. I think was about 4 months. Every day, you know what we do? That was the most anticipating thing. We run to this bulletin board. This bulletin board would post up the names of people that have been sponsored. So they announce it on a certain day of the week, and we run there to see if our name is on there. You think about it, right? Every day I wake up, do a regular thing, and then go see if our name's on there. And day after day after day after day after day for months, nothing, right? Until your name gets on there, you don't get off the island, right? And I think 4.5 months there, we finally saw our name there.
Wow.
And I remember elation, feeling of, wow, so we got accepted into Australia. We have a name there. And so then we got to the next stage, and the next stage was like, they would announce it, and then maybe a couple of weeks later, we get transferred, and we still have families on the island, right? Everybody's in a different situation. Just because
Right.
we get sponsored doesn't mean, my uncle's family. So we all left in little batches, and some end up in other countries. So my board of 50 people, I don't know how many countries we end up in. Some of my family end up in Australia. So we got sponsored. We went they bring us to a stage, Kuala Lumpur, right? The capital of Malaysia. It's a staging area to make sure you have all the right vaccines and your health check, and you're not diseased. But because you remember, you're on the island for a while, you might be near dying. And some other sad story I hear later on, my wife, her mom actually passed away in the refugee camp in Malaysia, and it was just a very normal sickness, maybe some infection, but and so she lost her mom there, and she had like 10 siblings, and her father had to take care of 10 siblings. But these stories happened. So when we were in Malaysia, we went to the staging for 1 month in Kuala Lumpur to make sure we get all the health check and vaccines. That was also an adventure. Again, we were in a locked zone. It's not like I go. So when I say that I've been to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, people are like, oh, how's Kuala Lumpur? I'm like, I don't know. I never saw outside of this iron gate. I was stuck in this place for a month inside these walls. And, again, I was in a refugee camp. I don't know. Right. So, but eventually we did get onto I remember, even vaguely, you remember Chips? Do you remember the cops show?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I used to love that show.
Yeah. So I remember this entire camp in Kuala Lumpur. We got nothing to do again except wait at night. They give us, I think, 1 hour of TV. There's one TV in the common area. It was a black and white TV. There was one TV, and everybody gather around, and they would show. And I remember Chips, and I'm like, wow, this is great. So every night you like, everybody gather around to watch. So something simple like that, I appreciate. Even today when I watch like a movie or TV, I'm like, we had nothing back then, and we really, really got together and we watched something together. So after 1 month, I ended up getting on a Boeing 747, and we actually ended up. It's like my dream continues. I'm like, what is this thing? I went from a dinghy boat. Right now, I'm on this giant Boeing 747. This is so luxury, and the plane experience. I still remember my first flight from Malaysia to Melbourne, Australia, April 1982, April 28th, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I never forget those days where I set foot on Australia land as a new immigrant. I'm no
It must have
longer.
been amazing.
But yeah, that's kind of my journey, how I end up in a foreign land, really.
That's a great story. I mean, I was sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time when you were telling this story, wondering what was going to happen next, and, if you were going to survive or get caught by pirates, and, how you were going to survive in the island. I actually found the island on Google Maps.
Pulau Bidong.
Yeah, Pulau Bidang, which is just off the coast of Malaysia, it looks like. Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing this, Lynn. And, I'm sure people are going to appreciate this and, just kind of like that, that survival mentality, just surviving on what you need and the ability to, I've been through this. So, whatever trials and tribulations I go through as an entrepreneur is nothing compared to this, right?
Really, I'm honestly appreciate every single day. I have a chance to kind of interact with people, get up, do what I love doing. Again, I have open ears. I listen, and I can appreciate everybody in terms of their opinions, their background, because everybody's background shaped them. So yeah, thanks for having the opportunity to tell my story.
Absolutely. And so I think we should share this far and wide. And, it just goes to show who is behind the companies that we frequent today. So until next time, we will see each other again.
Thank you.
Okay.